My name is Max. I'm Director of Exhibits and Programs here at Norway House. And right next to me here is...
Hi, I'm Heather Bick, and I have been volunteering getting this Gingerbread Wonderland exhibit going for now we're into year 6. And I have an office here at Norway House and always available for your questions as you're baking. We thank you very much for doing so.
Yes. So we're doing things quite a bit differently this year, as you can tell. Normally we would have you all together with us in person at a kitchen, baking kits together and doing this as a demo. But of course we have to be distant now. And so we are trying to do a fun, creative way of teaching how to build gingerbread kits. So today's kind of free class will all be about how to help us roll out kits that we actually provide for the community, in addition to some other tips and tricks, including how to make excellent glue frosting and some tips on candy that Heather will share. We actually will be doing a kind of more full gingerbread class later on that will be released in October with Heather for kind of further details on creating your gingerbread masterpiece for this year's Gingerbread Wonderland. So that being said, a few things about Gingerbread Wonderland. So this year, we will be opening Gingerbread Wonderland a little bit earlier. In fact, we'll be opening on Thursday, the opening reception, which will be all virtual, will be on Thursday, November 5th, followed by the opening of the exhibit on Friday, November 6th. This year will be a little different. We're going to be doing by appointments, up to 10 people at a time. And included in the price of your admission will be a coffee or hot chocolate and a cookie as well. So you'll be able to get a little cafe treat while you're here. And Ingebrigtsens will actually be open as well for a gift shop experience. So kind of just a little overview of Gingerbread Wonderland in the past. Last year was our 5th annual Gingerbread Wonderland exhibit. We had over 200 gingerbread structures, and we had over 14,000 people visit the exhibit, which is quite amazing. So we'll see, if we can get that many people to visit us virtually this year, because this year we're going to also be offering a virtual experience of Gingerbread Wonderland with a 360-degree panorama of the exhibit for you to explore from the safety of your own home if you don't want to come in and book a tour with us. So like I said, we'll kind of be fun and exciting and a little bit different this year, but we're really looking forward to it. I just want to give a little quick overview of the program today. It's kind of meant to be a little informal program, like I said before, of how to help us build kits. I know many of you have already signed up online, and I will actually share the screen now for our sign up if you haven't seen it already. But here we are, save the date, Gingerbread Wonderland, November 6th through January 3rd. Here's some information. So keep an eye out on the site. We will be updating it in the weeks ahead. But I also do want to share actually this page, which is that you can visit at norwayhouse.org/bake. And this is where you can submit your gingerbread structure idea to us for this year, as well as setting a drop-off date to submit your gingerbread structure, and more information on the contest will come. But most importantly, especially for this class, is the Gingerbread House instructions and recipe that you can see here. If you scroll down a little bit further, you can actually click 2 different buttons to download the gingerbread recipe and also to download a gingerbread kit template, which is the template that we'll be using to bake these kits. So again, to overview, we baked what, 60 kits last year, Heather? Yep. 60 kits that we provided to members of the community. I think we had about 15 to 20 volunteers who joined us at Kitchen the Market downtown to bake these kits, and the kits fly off the shelves in a matter of days. I think less than a week, all the kits are gone. And all these kits make their way back into our exhibit and are part of our wonderful, delicious display. So for today, what we are going to do is we're going to start by playing some pre-recorded videos. And Heather and I will kind of talk through what's happening in these videos. And please feel free to use the chat box to ask questions during that time, and we will answer them. We will go over what you need as far as materials, what you need as far as baking supplies go, And then afterwards, we will kind of have a video demonstration on making the dry ingredients, followed by making the dough itself. And then at that point, I think Heather will talk a little bit about candy before we then actually switch over to the live section of our demo today, where Heather will show you the processes, the steps of rolling out the dough. Probably one of the more difficult parts.
Yeah.
And then showing you how they're baked as well. And then we'll be ending the program today with frosting, because I know that's the number one thing I think people have questions on is how do you make good frosting for this for your gingerbread structure. So, okay, here we are. Okay, oh, excellent. I'm just looking aside here at the chat box. Everyone can hear me, it looks like. Awesome, good, perfect. Oh, we even have someone from San Diego here. Oh, fabulous. That's so cool. And that's what's awesome about actually doing this virtually this year, is that we can bring Gingerbread Wonderland to even more people. Like I said, we're going to have a virtual aspect of this exhibit as well, in addition to an in-person. We are just concluding our Bal de Scholl exhibit in the gallery right now. So if you haven't seen Bal de Scholl yet, you can still sign up to come tour. But we've had so many people, I think over 2,000 people experience the Bal de Scholl exhibit online. So, you know, we make we take lemons and make lemonade, right?
Yep,
you know, we
yep.
find new ways, and I would say we've even engaged even more people across the nation and even internationally with these exhibits. So we couldn't be more thrilled to make Gingerbread Wonderland virtual this year. So that being said, I'm going to switch over now and we're going to play some videos, and I'll keep an eye on the chat box here in case you have any questions. And I'll turn it over to Heather, who will then kind of describe what we're doing. So actually, oops, here we go. We have the recipe list in front of you.
Yeah.
So bear with me here, folks, while I just switch over to our video. All right. Fabulous. Where did my little chat box? All right, so I'll turn it over to you, Heather, to kind of explain some of the ingredients here that we have.
All right, yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about what you need to buy to get started. And also, I just want to say thank you. I really wish we could all be together in person, because baking these kits together is a lot of fun. And we'll just be doing it in our own homes this year, but you know, that's okay. So everybody be sure to download the recipe off of the website so that you have that in hand. That is first and foremost. Most important thing. The things that you are going to need are pictured here in the video. I don't want you to get excited about getting fancy ingredients, because the ingredients, nobody's going to be eating these.
We hope.
Presumably. We had a little bit of a problem with some organic molasses once. That didn't work very well. So just, you can see right there some Brer Rabbit molasses. There's Grandma's molasses. You can get that in the baking aisle. Just get some plain molasses. If it's dark or light, it doesn't matter. You don't need to get anything fancy. You can see all the ingredients there, good spices, everything that makes gingerbread taste great and smell good.
I was going to say, we actually have some baking right now, and I wish you all were here because it smells absolutely divine in Norway House right now.
Yeah, you're missing out, but it'll soon be in your own kitchen.
Right.
And thanks for everybody that is doing this at home, because some people are a little bit challenged as far as kitchen talent, or challenged as far as time, and having all of you bake these kits for them is really helpful, and it makes our exhibit just a little bit more fun, a little bit bigger. So if just as we go through all of these things, just be sure to type something in the chat box if you have any questions about the ingredients. But we'll just keep rolling here so you can see some of the process. The video is going to show me mixing some of the ingredients, and I welcome you to ask questions as we go, because it might be a little bit boring watching while I'll try to explain things as we go on.
And actually, I see here we do have one question, and I'll just say this: we'll try to get it to as many as we can. And afterwards, if we miss one, I'll go through and we'll try to answer them afterwards at the end of the program today. But if not, we actually will be making these videos. And Heather has so kindly offered her contact information if you have any questions after the program on creating these kits and or your own gingerbread structures. So like I said, if we can't get to you today, don't worry. We want to make sure we can answer your questions.
Look for the follow-up email.
Look for the follow-up email. So it looks like we have a question here, Heather, for you.
Well, about blackstrap
Blackstrap,
molasses.
yes. Does that work the same as plain molasses?
I would not suggest doing that. I would just get plain molasses. If it's dark or light, that's fine, but blackstrap molasses is a little bit different consistency, so I would not suggest doing that.
Okay. We have actually one other here, one real quick, is what strength is the Bear Rabbit?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure, but it's very mild. It's very mild molasses. It's very plain. I know there's different varieties of molasses, but I would not try to do anything fancy.
Yes. Actually, looking at it closer, Margie, thank you. It is a mild brand. So.
Yes, it is mild on the one that I have here that we use for the baking today.
Perfect.
All right, so
we're gonna move on here to the tools that you're going to need.
The tools that you're going to need. These are important. So have a good cookie sheet, of course. I hope you have a good mixer because this dough gets really stiff. So you need something with some muscle. I have a little bowl and a sifter there for the dry ingredients. I have to say, like, some people are very careful about sifting their dry ingredients. I'm not always all that careful. Again, nobody's going to be eating this. You don't have to be a professional cook and go back to home ec class, but it's helpful to just keep good consistency if you sift the ingredients. We also make sure you have wax paper on hand, make sure you have parchment paper on hand, a really good roller, a scraper for your bowl, and there's a couple other tools on the other side that I will go through as we do the demonstration later. But anyway, these are the things that are important for you to have handy when you start doing your mixing of the dough. So,
moving on.
As we move on, yes.
Zoom forward a little bit. Preparing the dough. Here we are. We had fun making these videos.
Yes. We did this the other day, and we'll just go through it little by little. I think that making sure you're measuring everything right so you have a good consistency so that the dough is not too sticky or too dry is very important. So follow the measurements that we have on this tried and true recipe. The recipe that is posted on the website and that I use every year and we've handed out for years during Gingerbread Wonderland is one that I got years and years ago watching TV when I was pregnant with my first child, and I was going to do this for our new baby, like do a fun gingerbread house, and been doing it ever since. That was in 1987. So it works, and I feel like I've learned something every year that I've tried to make a gingerbread house. Every year, things turn out a little bit differently, but this recipe is definitely tried and true. And as many people will testify that have been helping us out at Norway House. So we're sifting the dry ingredients there. I love how Max sped it up a little bit because that can be pretty boring.
Yes, I had fun editing the video together. I told Heather that I sped it up 600% at points. So you'll see her moving quite quickly, so don't worry. She doesn't actually move that fast. But she is a Wonder Woman though. So.
I was not moving quite that fast.
So yeah, so actually, if anyone has questions right now as we watch the video, please feel free to submit them via the chat feature. And you're free to do those as we kind of watch them collectively together. So looks like here you're adding some of the essential spices.
Yes. And yeah, the essential spices, very important. I mean, it makes your gingerbread house smell great. I like to, in my own house, when I'm building my own gingerbread, leave a vent on the top of the house as I'm as I'm making it so that I can put a candle inside to light it up, and boy, does it make your house smell great. Because you get that gingerbread smell coming from the house on your, in the middle of your table all during the holiday season.
And we're sifting some more of the flour here.
So there we go.
And I'll say too, there's a great history of ginger that I do during a presentation every year for Gingerbread Wonderland. And of course, we'll be doing it again this year. Oh, okay, real quick. Can you repeat that? You put a candle in the house.
Yes. So you'll see a little bit, maybe we can share some pictures later too of some houses from the past, but I do like to get a tea light and put it right in the middle of my gingerbread house. You leave a door so you can take the candle in and out, and leave a vent on the top of the roof for the heat to escape. And then you can light it, and you'll see what we do with the windows later on so that you get some colorful lights coming through the side of the gingerbread house. And the smell is just fantastic.
I will say though, quick thing, we do not have live flames in our display at Norway House.
No, we do not.
We use electric candles.
Yes.
So
yes.
if you'd like to, for your own creations, separate from the kids,
right.
If you'd like to do that for your submission this year, just please make sure they are electric, of course.
The pattern that you can get on the website has an option for cutting the vent in the top if it's something where you'd like to use that pattern at home as well. So if you're making a kit for Norway House, don't put the vent in the top because it's not necessary. We will not be putting a candle in.
Right. And they don't melt with the windows, surprisingly.
They don't melt. If you're properly vented and you've got the heat coming out of the top, they don't melt. I like to leave a little bit of distance.
Perfect. So we're gonna get to mixing the dough now. So here we are.
Butter flavor Crisco, it's my favorite. Again, nobody's gonna eat it, so the flavor doesn't matter too much, but definitely shortening. Butter is gonna give a whole different consistency. Don't try it. It'll make it'll give a consistency to the cookie dough that is not very stable and not very strong. So use shortening.
Sugar.
Lots of sugar. Every kid knows that this Gingerbread Wonderland is all about sugar. Lots of sugar and candy. That's why we all love it.
Yep. And when I do my presentation, that will be virtual online later this year in October. I'll talk a little bit about the different, I guess, the history of gingerbread and how in England, gingerbread was actually made out of mustard seed and raisins. And in France, they used rose water instead of molasses. It actually wasn't until I think Europe discovered the Americas did they discover molasses. So that was kind of a, in terms of history, a relatively new technique with gingerbread. So it's kind of odd to think that back then mustard seed and raisins were
used in gingerbread.
Yeah. So, but
Max has become quite the historian
yes.
of gingerbread. He does a great presentation on the whole background and the way that it was used to give gifts to visitors and used in
yes.
the royal houses.
Yes.
And they've made even replicas of people in the house.
Yep.
Right? Like,
it was actually King George III. Now, King George III was so scared of the Black Plague, of course, interesting that we're in a pandemic now, that he had his bakers bake ginger into all of his food. It was his theory that if he ate so much ginger as possible that he wouldn't get sick. And I think inspired by her father, Queen Elizabeth then was the first person to actually make gingerbread talismans out of visiting dignitaries, which is where the concept of gingerbread people and then later gingerbread houses came from. All that and more, part of a to be announced gingerbread history program. So
I highly recommend it. It's very interesting to learn the background of gingerbread. You can see we're just slowly putting the flour into the dough here so it doesn't spray all over the place, and it gets very thick, so it's helpful to do it little by little and just see how thick it gets. This dough is very, very stiff, so you might even want to use a dough hook. My KitchenAid is pretty strong, but a dough hook in the KitchenAid is sometimes helpful just because it does get so stiff and it puts a lot of strain on your mixer. Hard thing to ever mix by hand. I can't imagine trying to do it. So there we are. It's mixed up. It's really stiff, and we gotta get it out of the bowl. This is going to be refrigerated at least 3 hours. I usually try to make my dough the day before I'm going to actually put a gingerbread house together. So it's plenty stiff, because that really helps as you're trying to cut out shapes and form your pieces before you bake them. So just wrap it up in some plastic wrap and get it in the fridge and forget about it for a while. Kind of draws out the process. If you're going to be doing this with kids or anything, keep that in mind, that you can mix the gingerbread beforehand.
There's Heather.
Too much wine on the shelf. Yeah, put it
Perfect. So I think now we're going to take a pause here, and then we're gonna come back to talk about frosting with a video that we've done.
Yeah.
But we're going to switch to the kitchen now.
Any more questions before we go?
Yeah. So yeah, anyone have any more questions about some of the videos we just watched about mixing the dry ingredients, the wet ingredients together, before we move into the kitchen for the live section?
Just make sure you mix it so it's a really uniform consistency. That's going to really help a lot. All right.
We'll stop the screen share here. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well,
here we go.
We'll see you in just a few seconds as we transition over to the kitchen. You are unmuted. All right, everybody, here we are going live in the Hanson room, the basement of Norway House. So as we're doing this here, since I am going to be recording from afar, I am unable to see questions via the chat feature. So I will kind of pop back when I can into the other room. Oh yes, the perfect amount of wine. Actually, no, never mind. I can see questions pop up on the bottom here. But we'll answer questions more in full as we go. But I hope everyone can kind of see Heather here, and I think we're going to start off by kind of showing everyone. You're going to be taking the dough out of the fridge,
Yep,
and then.
Yep. All right. So I've used up a little bit of the dough now for demonstration purposes, but I've kept this in the refrigerator so it's nice and chilled and stiff. And then we have to get to rolling it out. Roll your dough between 2 pieces of wax paper. There have been a few bakers who have rolled with flour, because that's what you're used to doing when you roll out a pie crust or cookies. Sometimes put flour on the dough to roll it out. Don't do that, because that makes a flour coating on the cookie, and then it's not going to hold the decorations very well. So keep it clean, keep it between wax paper, and you're going to have to use a lot of muscle on the dough because it is stiff. So, and I've kept here a piece of cardboard, just some corrugated cardboard, because I feel that that is just about the right thickness as you roll out the dough. So it takes a while to get it to look thin, but stick with it. If you keep it too thick, when you bake it, it's going to rise, and that's going to do different things to the shape of the house. The thinner you can get it, the more you're going to be able to control the shape of the house. Now, handily, I have already done this. I've rolled one out, and here we have one the right thickness. Now, for 8 of you, if you're really worried about making a gingerbread pattern, we have some of these cutters that are really handy. And I've found that if you want to make one recipe of dough, you can get 2 houses out of it. 2 cuts with this nice cookie cutter makes a whole house. So it's super simple. Just put this into the dough and you've got half a house right there.
And also, I was going to say too, the template that's available online at norwayhouse.org/bake, that is a downloadable template, very similar to the cutout that you see here, and you can print that out and actually use that as a template to cut your own dough. Like Heather said, there's 8 of these templates available. So when we email everybody on Monday, we'll just kind of see it, kind of first come, first serve. You can email me after we send the email on Monday to kind of reserve a template, and we'll see if we can't try to share it as much as we can. We have about 2 weeks, I think, to create the kits and have them dropped off before they are available to the public on October 1st. But it is very handy. So like Heather said, if you are worried about it, we do have that available for you.
Yeah, and this is the template that is online. This has a lot of pages. So there's a template for a small house, and all you need to do is get some parchment paper, trace it, and cut it out. And then you can use that on your rolled out dough and cut around it just with a simple kitchen knife. So there's a pattern for a small house. There's a pattern for a larger house. And there's a pattern for just a square building that a lot of people have used to make a little storefront. So all these are available on the Norway House website. Now I've just cut this out with one of the cutters today because we're going to do this fast and easy. And as many of you would like to, I'm sure, make it fast and easy. If you're using the templates that you're going to make yourself from the Norway House website, be sure to space out your pieces, just like the cutter has spaced out the pieces. And I will show you why in just a minute. So we're just going to get the extra dough off and put it to the side. And we're going to roll that dough out again later. We'll just keep it in a ball and roll it out when we want to make the next piece to cut. All right, there we go. So now for a little magic, this is pretty sticky dough. You got your wax paper. It has been rolled between the wax paper, took the top part off. It sticks really well to the wax paper. I've taken a cookie sheet over here and I've lined it with parchment paper. And we're just going to drop it right in the middle like that. All right. And then we can peel off the top. And it is ready to go. Now, some of the magic that is really fun to do with these kits is to make some colored windows, of course. Now, we like to use Jolly Ranchers. You can use any kind of hard candy, any kind of colors that you like. I've done butterscotch, especially when I'm going to put a candle inside my house because butterscotch smells pretty great. But Jolly Ranchers have great colors. Lifesavers have great colors. Whatever kind of good hard candy you can find. Now, I've crushed some Jolly Ranchers here. You can see the consistency. I made the pieces really small. When you're gonna do the Jolly Ranchers and crush them, I would suggest 2 sandwich bags because it really, the Jolly Ranchers get sharp and it destroys the bag. So make it double thick or find something really strong to crush them between. And we're just going to use a kitchen mallet. Well, so we've done that and we put them into this bowl. Now we're going to go back over to our little pieces that are ready to go in the oven and fill these holes with candy. I found that when we bake this for 10 minutes, it's just the perfect amount of time for the Jolly Ranchers to melt into place. So there, we filled it pretty full. If you have really big pieces or you get it too full, it will go over the edge. And we don't want that. But here we go. They are ready to put in the oven. Let's go. 10 minutes and it'll be perfect. Of course, we've already done this, so I have some baked pieces to show you. This is one cut of the gingerbread cutter. So we have a front of a house, a half of a roof, a side of a house, and the pieces of the chimney that's going to go on top of the roof. So with one other cut, with the pieces that we have in the oven, we'll have a whole house. So I do see that some people signed up that they would make one kit. If you make one recipe and you have a cutter like this, it'll be a snap to make 2 kits. And the more we have, the bigger our exhibit gets and the more fun it is. So thanks if you can help out with stuff like that.
So Heather, I got a quick, I noticed a chat question pop up here. Just a question in regard to the Jolly Rancher. If you notice some bubbling, is there a way to prevent that, or what do you do if it does bubble, or is that just?
Well, so I've noticed that, well, for one, the bubbles can look kind of fun when the house is lit up. So I wouldn't worry about the bubbles too much. Sometimes the temperature of your oven, if they're cooking too fast, might affect the bubbles that are in there. We'll see this when the piece is done. When they come out of the oven, let it sit. It's going to be very liquid, but it's not, since we've lined the cookie sheet with parchment, it's not going to stick to the cookie sheet, and you have to let it cool. Now, sometimes when it's fresh out of the oven and it's a little bit bubbly in the windows, I've even taken a pin and popped some of the bubbles if there's a big bubble that I'm worried about. But you definitely have to let it sit on the cookie sheet until it's cool, and then it pops right off easily and doesn't stick to the cookie sheet, and you've got a fun piece. This has a tiny bit of bubbling in it, but again, that's not going to bother me because it's kind of pretty.
Great. So we got actually 2 other questions here.
Okay.
So the cutter, like the one we have, is actually available at Ingebrigtsens.
Yes.
So if you do live in the Twin Cities or nearby, the Ingebrigtsens gift shop does sell these. This is actually where we got the ones you see here. And they also do online sales as well. So if you live outside of the Twin Cities, they do shipping, so you can purchase one there. I believe they're only $15, so they're pretty affordable.
Yeah.
And then the other question, Heather, was what temperature do you set the oven at?
Oh, thank you. Oven was just at 350, like every regular cookie. So very simple. Yep, just at 350 degrees. Can somebody translate that into Celsius?
Yes. I'll translate it on Monday when we email out. So for anyone who's international or doesn't use,
you never know.
Right, Fahrenheit. So, and Google does fine too. So, yep.
There's also a tree version of this. If you want to make gingerbread trees, I've seen those at Ingebrigtsens too, which is a lot of fun. So,
yes. And we're trying to do a forest this year, kind of. So trees would be helpful. So,
like lots of trees.
Yes.
And then you don't have to worry about Jolly Ranchers or anything else. But there are a bunch of different cutters. They have some different ones available at Ingebrigtsens, and online you can find different cutters. I just think this one is so easy. It's the dough doesn't stick to it. It's just very simple. It's made in Sweden. Are we allowed to say that in Norway
Yes,
House?
we are. Yes, we are.
Now, I'm going to put the leftover dough back into the fridge right now so that it's ready for later. This dough will keep for quite a while. Since I'm not going to eat it, right? We're not going to eat it. I've had it in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks and then pulled it out, and it baked just fine. It was really great. And sometimes when we're busy with Gingerbread Wonderland and we're making lots of gingerbread projects, there's just dough around Norway House all the time in the refrigerator, and we're always ready to grab some more dough out of the fridge and bake another piece that's missing or something. So the dough is pretty easy to work with. And I'll put that away later too. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, there's some people that have used isomalt before. So
we can come over to the candy section over here.
Yeah, we'll do some of that while that's baking.
Okay.
This is isomalt crystals, and they're just white little tiny ball crystals. And this is what you can see some suckers on the front of here. This is what a lot of the hard candies that are molded are made out of. it can be really useful for doing fun gingerbread projects. We'll talk about this more when we do class in October, but it does not really work for windows in a gingerbread house like this. This is better for doing on a stove top or melting just by itself, and you can mold it, make different fun things to go with your gingerbread house. The wonderful thing about it is when you bake, when it's hard, it's not susceptible to humidity or heat as much as Jolly Ranchers or Lifesavers or something are. This will be really stable once it's in a mold. I've used some for a larger window, because if you try to make a large window that is, you know, something like this, like I've done before out of Jolly Ranchers, it will melt, it will sag, and Isomalt will not. But you have to work with it very carefully. If anybody's interested in using Isomalt, I'll talk to you about that later, but don't try that with baking your houses. It doesn't bake in the oven very well. It doesn't take the same amount of time to melt as the dough does to bake. So I've tried it, doesn't work.
There's some other delicious candy here, it looks like, too.
All kinds of fun things that you can decorate with, of course. Some of these fun things are just at Target.
And I'll just say quickly, too, for those of you making kits for us, for Norway House to give out to the community, you do not have to worry about candy. We will be putting candy together in bags after we either pick up or have you drop off the pieces of your kit to us.
Exactly.
And then we will package everything together in a nice little kind of gift bag for those who do wish to have a kit afterwards. So again, don't worry about making candy, and actually don't worry about making frosting. So
Yep. This is just if you want to do some stuff at home, do a new project at home. These are some of the other tools. I wanted to also show this, which is not to be used for gingerbread. I grate hard cheeses with it or do other things with it, but I have found that this is just a fantastic tool when you're doing gingerbread house. And if you are working with these kits, and if you can see this, it's a little rough around the edges after baking, and the way it's been cut in the with the cutter, and it's just a little rough. Now, when you try to put together a gingerbread house, and when people are putting together these kits, sometimes that makes it just a little bit rough to get the seams right. So this, I have discovered, works just great to straighten things out and just take off the rough edges. If you don't want to do that, or if you don't have a good tool at home, that's fine. But it's just kind of a nice thing to be able to do, and then you can make sure everything is really square and really clean. There you go. So let's see, any other questions before we move on? We've almost completed our baking.
yes, we have a few more tools. Do you want to talk about anything else over there too?
Yeah, I know. Let's see. We have, as we put together the kits, after you bring your pieces in, and all you have to do is bring these gingerbread pieces in that you've put windows into, and either cut with the template or cut with the cutter that we have. We're going to have cardboard bases to build them on that will go into the kits that we give out to people. This is one that I use at home. Do you have a sifter at home? Some people may not, but that's very helpful. What else do we have here? All kinds of fun things for decorating your house. Sliced almonds are great for roof shingles. All different kinds of pretzels are great for logs and sticks. We've got Jolly Ranchers. Be careful how you mix the colors if you're crushing them. These were really a fun thing that I found. I would highly suggest a visit to Lynn's Cake and Candy that's up in Columbia Heights, because they have all kinds of fun little things to decorate with. And these little flowers are one of the things I found there. These were from Sweden. So if you're going on a trip, you can find some great international candies if you're traveling abroad. I like to bring some home for gingerbread every time I travel somewhere. Oh,
And
there goes the
there it
oven.
is.
Let's go. Man, it smells delicious.
It smells divine. Like I said, I wish all of you could be here with us today baking, but soon enough.
Turned out just perfect.
We agree, Norway has some of the best candy.
It
So-
does. Boy, if you travel in Scandinavia, you can find just some wonderful candy.
So,
Now, sometimes when I take things out of the oven, we don't want to disturb. You can see the bubbles now on the Jolly Rancher windows, and those are going to start to melt together a little bit. So they look very bubbly when they first come out of the oven. I don't want to try to get these off of the parchment yet, because it'll really stick to the parchment and you will destroy the window. You have to make sure they're cool. However, I don't have, endless cookie sheets at home. So if I'm doing a lot of projects and I want to get maybe 5 kits done at a time, I can just pull this parchment off like that and let it cool that way. That will work just fine, but don't try to pick up those windows yet. So we'll just let that cool, but you can see after I let it sit for about 10 minutes, then we were able to get this nice cookie over here. So if you just very carefully bring in these pieces without getting them broken, even if they do break, we've had a lot of that happen, and we can put it together with frosting, but try to bring at least 2 houses in, and we'll put them into the kits. We'll put the candy with it. We'll have the recipe in the kit as well, and we'll have decorator candy. We'll have the base to build it on. We'll have everything that the family is going to need. They will have to get the ingredients for the frosting. We can show the video of doing the frosting now too, because I think we have.
I was gonna say that concludes our live demo here of baking out the gingerbread. So hopefully that was helpful for everyone. Give us a second here as we transition back over to our other room where we have our video, and we will conclude with frosting, how to make frosting, and then answer any additional questions that you folks may have.
Great.
All right, we'll be right back.
Wearing a mask, it's hard in the kitchen when you're hot and you're baking.
It does amplify the smell though, so I think
Yeah,
there's
true.
that. So it actually smells a lot more gingerbready than I think probably normal here. So perfect. Well, here we're going to scroll down so we have all of our comments here. Perfect. All right. So like I said, we're going to transition now over to the last video demo that we have, and that is how to make the frosting. So in just a second here, we will share that with everyone.
I want to say, if you are going to make your own gingerbread house and you're going to be making some frosting, I have never found a recipe that is as great as this. It's absolutely like glue, and you can do amazing things with it. When we do our class in October, we'll do a little bit more with demonstrating some decorating techniques,
Excellent.
right?
Perfect.
And ask people to share.
Oh, Nancy, yeah, we miss everyone too. It's really, yeah. This is truly a community effort. We invite everyone in the community to build structures with us. It's been so fun because it's not just people of Nordic descent doing this, but we have the entire community participating. In years past, we've had a gingerbread Buddhist temple, a gingerbread mosque, and even candies. And well, we even had an entry from Israel last year, and she's actually part of our conversation here today.
Oh,
and
great.
yeah.
Hi.
And she's going to participate again this year with her daughter. And so we had fun Israeli candy, part of a.
Yeah, she came with that house in her suitcase
Yes,
after
she did.
making it in Israel with her daughter.
Right, so no excuses for not being able to ship gingerbread houses for all of you folks who live outside the Twin Cities. It can be done.
I have some friends helping me that are going to be shipping from different states too.
Excellent.
So.
Oh, perfect. Well, here, we will now kind of conclude with the frosting video and then answer questions.
I would say be very careful to do this frosting recipe correctly. Many of you have probably worked with separating eggs before. As you know, you have to carefully split the shell and make sure you don't break that yolk. Make sure the yolk stays intact. Absolutely no yolk can get into the egg white that is down in the bowl, because that will ruin the frosting. It will not whip, and it won't be fluffy. So this recipe has 3 egg whites in it, and I break it into the bowl. So if any yolk gets in, I put it in the refrigerator to scramble later, and put the yolk in it. Only egg whites in that bowl. The other thing is a plastic bowl does not work. The egg whites will not whip and get high enough if they won't get fluffy enough if they're in a plastic bowl. So you need a glass bowl or a metal bowl as you're doing the mixing. So we first just begin by mixing the egg whites and getting them to a soft peak. You can see it's just a soft peak. It's not super stiff yet, but it's fluffy. And then we start adding the other magic ingredients to turn it into frosting. Of course, we have lots of powdered sugar. And then,
let's say we have a question here. Sugar-free Jolly Ranchers work?
That is a good question. I have not tried sugar-free Jolly Ranchers. Give it a try and let us know what happens. That would be a really good thing to share with everybody. This calls for a pound of powdered sugar. That was a 2-pound bag, so I found that about 3.5 cups of powdered sugar was about a pound, about 1 pound. It must be about seven cups in a bag, in a 2-pound bag. Another very important ingredient is, of course, the salt, and just a dash there. I never measure a dash with a little dash spoon. Although my friend Janice has a dash spoon.
I didn't know one existed.
Oh, yes. But the cream of tartar is what's really going to help that frosting stiffen up and turn into some good glue. Make sure you've got cream of tartar. Don't skimp on any of these ingredients here. There's imitation vanilla back here. I don't think you need to get fancy with the vanilla. It can just be imitation.
It's more for the smell.
It's more for the smell, and it works. It probably does smell a lot better when it's vanilla extract instead of imitation vanilla, but since we won't be eating it, and the smell of the gingerbread is good enough for me.
So Heather, we have a question here for you. Are you going to share with everyone today what you're making for the exhibit this year?
Is absolutely a secret.
Yes, yes.
There are a couple of people on this chat tonight that know the secret.
Yes, and I just found out last night myself, and I've sworn to secrecy that I cannot share with anybody.
I just had to run it by Max because, you know, he's the exhibit master. He puts together, once we start making this into an exhibit, visuals, oh, let's see, is it done yet? Let's check it out. Is it really stiff? No, not quite stiff enough. This is going to whip for a long time. You do not want to make this frosting soft. It has to be really, really stiff because it's going to help hold the house together. Very important. This is probably the most important thing you can do when you're making a gingerbread house is to get the frosting right and make sure that it's super stiff. Of course, this video is, Max did speed it up. So it took a lot longer than that to beat it until it was stiff. Now that's some thick frosting. That is ready to go.
It was like glue. I got some on my hands. So, well, there we have it, everyone. There's our video demos that we had for today. We're going to switch back so you can see us with our pretty masks on here, and we'll answer some more questions. I know we have some here. We had a question about the theme this year, expanding upon the theme. So we in the past, we really haven't had themes before, and that's because we don't want to discourage anyone's creativity. We found in the past that when we had concrete themes, there were some folks who wanted to do things outside the theme. And of course, we don't want anyone to feel like we're preventing them from expressing their creativity. So that being said, you can do anything you'd like. But this year, because we're all social distancing, we thought it might be fun to try to go into the woods. So when we do the set design this year, we might be adding additional trees and having a forest theme. We're actually going to have reindeer hooves on the ground as a guiding path, because my colleague Rachel Barnes, who runs events here at Norway House, discovered that the reindeer, the male reindeer, averages about 6 feet in length, which just so happens to be how far away we're supposed to stay away from each other. So we thought, how perfect was that? We also have a skit that's being written, actually by Rachel as well this year. And so we're gonna have a fun kind of into the forest skit, if you will, to kick off Gingerbread Wonderland this year. So again, don't feel like you have to make a structure that is forest themed. It's just kind of a fun little play on social distancing this year and making the exhibit virtual.
You know,
So,
Max, these people that are helping out right now are definitely the insiders and getting the scoop right now.
yes.
And that's because you've been so generous with your time and are helping us out with these kits.
So thank you, everyone. Yes. So here we go. Is there a Minneapolis Billy want? So let's see here. If egg whites are beaten until they are stiff, will it spoil the rest of the recipe? If they are beaten until they are stiff, before adding the rest of the ingredients. Oh, okay. There we go. I see.
Oh, yes. Add all the ingredients before you begin the final beating. I get the cream of tartar in there, the vanilla, and everything in there. As you get the last of the powdered sugar in there. Once the powdered sugar and everything is in there, then let it beat and just let it go for a long time until you see it stiffen up.
And to answer your question, Lauren, yes, there is a building. If you do not live in Minneapolis, or for that matter, if you want to build a structure that's somewhere that's far, far away from you and you don't have the ability to see the full picture, besides Googling it, feel free to imagine what that could be. Again, we are not looking for realism here. This is a creative, fun activity. So, so yes, let's see here.
Absolutely.
What is the best way to transport the pieces?
That's a good question. You know, we've found that sometimes too, we're kind of early this year. If it's warm outside, it's going to be kind of difficult for the gingerbread and the Jolly Ranchers to stay how we'd like them to be. So it does help to put some parchment paper between the pieces as you go. And you could, I would say, if you can just put them in a paper bag and protect them somehow so they're not going to get smashed. Maybe have a hard piece of cardboard underneath, but separate them with some pieces of parchment. That'll make it easy. You know, then we know they'll arrive in good condition. A box or a paper bag that is the right size to keep the pieces should work.
Yeah. Yeah, box cover works perfectly. And again, we will be putting all of these together in kits that we will be giving out starting October 1st. So again, don't worry about the candy. Don't worry about having the perfect packaging. We're just looking to receive these from you, and then we will be putting them together here at Norway House. So perfect. Well, we're just about 5 minutes to 7. So
wow.
Yeah, we really filled up the time there. Perfect timing. But we'll stick around here for the next 5 minutes in case anyone else has any other questions. But just wanted to thank everyone so much for participating in our little live and pre-recorded webinar today. Hopefully it worked out pretty well. It seems like it did. I get some comments that people can see us and hear us. So that's good. That's important. And again, I will post the videos that we watched during the webinar today on Monday, in addition to sending out an email to everyone who participated. If you signed up, if you did not, feel free to sign up. for the kits, or just to email me at M, that's for Max Stevenson, STEVENSON, at norwayhouse.org. And I'll put it here in the little chat box too, if you have any additional questions.
And Max will share my contact information as well in the email that comes up. And absolutely give me a call if you have any baking questions. I'm not a professional baker, that not by far, but I've just been doing this a long time. So I feel like I've encountered just about every kind of problem you can encounter when you're baking over the 32 years. So I'd be happy to help anybody that has questions, and we just really are so glad that you're helping out.
Yes. All right, looks like we have a couple more questions here. How much time do we have to use the frosting before it dries?
That is a really good question. So when you mix it up, the recipe makes quite a bit, and it's definitely enough for putting together 2 of these small houses that you saw me cut out. I usually keep it in the refrigerator with plastic wrap over the top. Let me go grab my bowl.
Okay, yeah.
I made some.
Well, that's perfect, because we have another question here. How is there a way of storing the frosting? And while Heather grabs that, I just want to do one final pitch for our exhibit currently at Norway House Baldishul. In fact, my mask was made by one of the Baldishul artists, Dawn Zira Erickson, who's from Red Wing, Minnesota. She is part of the exhibit. The exhibit actually is all new pieces, contemporary work created by actually all women artists, 26 women artists from the UK, Canada, and the United States, all inspired by the medieval Baldishul tapestry, which is the oldest medieval tapestry in Norway. You can see the whole exhibit online at norwayhouse.org. And if you are in town, you can sign up for an appointment for a guided tour or just a gallery visit. So,
and it is a beautiful exhibit. It's really good to see.
So, perfect.
So here's my frosting that I made, and I put this plastic wrap right on top of it just to keep it from drying out. And I keep it in the refrigerator and put enough into a decorator tube, as much as I need in the decorator tube, and put this away in the refrigerator after I've done that so it stays fresh. I have kept some leftover frosting until the next day to use it if I wasn't able to finish my project. And that's it. It's not usually as good after you've kept it for a day. It's good to use it fresh. So make your frosting when you think you're going to be using it and try to use it that day, but keep it in the fridge as you go, just to keep it stiffer. If we get a warm October, it's going to be difficult to keep the frosting the right consistency. So just make sure everything stays cool and dry.
Excellent. Well, I think, thank you again so much, everyone. And we're seeing some comments come in. We're so glad that this was really helpful for all of you, that it worked. That was like half my anxiety with this, is that all the tech worked appropriately in the age of Zoom. And so we're glad that it was helpful for everyone. And again, these will be, well, actually, I'll put this recording online in addition to the other videos. You can find them on our YouTube page on Monday. But I think we'll conclude the program for today. Again, thank you so much. And we look forward to receiving your kits if you're going to build some kits for us, and your structures for Gingerbread Wonderland, which opens on November 6th, Friday, November 6th this year. So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Tusen takk. And we will see and talk to you all soon.
And happy baking.
Yes, happy baking.